Okay, welcome to my third and hopefully last installment of Between Colle and Delvaux, played in 1929. We're on White's 14th move. White just played the move Queen to E4, threatening checkmate. And I asked you, what move would you make? Well, the two obvious moves seem to be G6 or moving the rook over, creating some an escape square for the king. So actually, probably the better move in this position. Black actually played G6, but probably the better move was actually Rook to E8. And here's how it would have followed. It looks very threatening, but Rook to E8, and then what would have followed was Queen to H7, King to F8, the only move. And now what to do from here? Well, the only real White's going to have to retreat the knight. So retreat it to E4. And now the king's going to come up to E7, knight to C5. Sort of nice. Cuts off the square right here. And also threatens to capture the bishop. And now Black's going to have to play Queen to C8. And as we can see, potentially, the king is now in the center. White can always move this pawn up, hopefully getting rid of some more of the pawns around the king. And White can also play the rooks over. And then the king would sort of be sitting dead somewhat in the center. So that probably would have been a better strategy for Black, but Black actually chose G6. Whoops. So that move, and then now G6. Moving another pawn in front of the king. It seems like the time is ripe. You know, Black is moving the pawns in front of the king. There must be some way. You know, it seems like all of these pieces are poised to strike at the king. It looks like the only thing we need to do is somehow get, rip out some of these pawns and get to the king. So, the two, or maybe the two moves that seem plausible are knight takes F7 and knight takes E6. Well, I'll run through the one that you shouldn't play first. It's knight takes F7, because it actually allows, while it accomplishes, you get the same material. You can always get, or basically White's going to sacrifice the knight to open the position, but White will end up getting the material. And by taking either pawn, White can get its material back. But if you take this pawn here, what's going to happen is that you're going to allow Black to add a defender to the group. So knight takes F7, rook takes F7, queen takes G6 check, and then now the defender, the rook, can come over. And now actually something bad can happen. White can take the third pawn where material is even, so White has given up a knight for 3 pawns. Black actually has this great reply, which I did not see. I saw all the way up to here when I did my analysis, but I didn't take it one move further. Black has this great move, knight takes D4, threatening checkmate, because now the knight can just come to here, give a check, then the king has to move, and then the bishop delivers check if White does nothing. So very scary. The better move for White in this position is actually to take the pawn on E6, which actually happened in the game, because when Black retakes, the rook is not able to come up and defend. So let's continue the game. So knight, white takes e6, black takes e6. The queen comes in, takes the pawn with check. And now notice, because we didn't take the pawn here, the rook is not able to come and defend. So now actually black has to interpose the bishop, because if the king moves, we simply checkmate on h7. And now, personally, if I was playing this game, I probably would have played bishop takes this pawn. But this may allow black to defend. So what Colle probably goes, his strategy now is to lure the king out into the open and checkmate him, which is the better strategy. I probably would have gone for the material and maybe had some complications. But so this was a good learning tool for me about, flushing the king out. So white plays queen to h7, check. The king has to come out. Then Colle plays bishop to g6, check. And now the king has to come to f6, moving the king somewhere else. Like to here just loses the bishop here, and then after the king moves, you could just pick up the bishop over here. So that would lead to material loss for black, losing the game. So the king has to come to f6. And now, the white plays bishop to h5, renewing the threat of forcing the king away from this bishop here. So the threat now is the queen comes to g6, and the king has to move away, and then white could pick up this bishop and this bishop over here. So I'm running low on time, so I want to definitely finish this game in this lecture. So black plays knight to e7, protecting this square. And now white takes the pawn. Really, it's just adding another attacker here. So threatening to take the bishop. And now black plays rook to g8, adding a defender to the bishop. Now white plays h4, actually threatening checkmate. If the bishop comes back to here, it would be checkmate, because the white king doesn't really have any real good fleeing squares. All these squares I'm highlighting, the king can't run to, even that one or that one. So threatening to deliver checkmate. Now actually black makes a mistake and takes the bishop, and then white delivers checkmate. But I mean, black didn't really have a good move at this point. It was going to lose material. The only move that so rather black was going to get checkmated by bishop takes h6. The only other real move leads to a big material loss for black, which is e5. And now if black played e5, play would continue. Bishop takes g7, check. The rook is basically forced to capture. And then white plays d takes e5. Now the king has to move away from the rook. The king moves away. Taking the pawn is not advisable, because then the rooks could just get into the action for white. And then now the queen just takes the rook, and now black has one of white's knights, and white has black's rook and 4 pawns. So obviously white has a huge material advantage, is going to win this game. So black got checkmated instead of losing a bunch of material, which would have led to a game loss anyways. So that's the game between Colle and Delvaux.